He said to me, sometimes you have to just wrench the piece away from the composer, and you have to take it and you have to carry it to its premiere. And so I really took that to heart. My first inspiration for music was my mom played the piano and she sang with us as children. And when we went to bed, after she'd gotten these 3 little kids into bed, she would go downstairs and play the piano. And I remember falling asleep to the sound of my mother practicing the piano. I'm from the village of Waverley, which is in Nova Scotia. This was pre-internet. We didn't have public transit. I remember we only had 2 TV channels at the beginning, and I didn't find them very interesting. So making music was a way of communicating. And even when I went to my friends' houses, a lot of my friends had pianos, and we were all taking lessons of some kind, and we would play and sing together. And we had a wonderful music teacher, Miss McEwen, and I'm still in touch with her. I still see her pretty well every summer and make music with her when I go home. It was all very joyful, and that's what I still feel. For example, I was sitting at the London Symphony Orchestra rehearsal today, and they were rehearsing Brahms, and I just felt this incredible sense of joy. And I turned to George Benjamin, who was beside me, and I said, "We are so lucky." There was a specific moment that I knew that I would become a singer. I was in my teens, and I was taking private singing lessons. And at that point, I knew, okay, I'm going to sing. And I wasn't sure what kind of singing I wanted to do. I liked all kinds of music. I liked musicals, I liked jazz, I liked classical music. When I was 17, I met a teacher who was so inspiring to me, and I think she saw in me the potential that I could have a career, and at that point, I also knew that that was possible. So that decision was very clear. Okay, it's going to be classical music. When I started my career, because I was doing a lot of contemporary music, many of my concerts were recorded for radio. So when you're 19 years old and you've got radio mics in front of you, that's like, wow. It's in a way, it's nerve-wracking. And then with platforms like Marquee, streaming has become something quite normal. I do like that these platforms can bring classical music to people all over the world. And I often think, oh, my dad can see this. In Pugwash, Nova Scotia, my father and all his friends can get together and watch something live that I'm doing in whatever country I'm in. It's not only for the people that live in the big cities or that can afford to come to the concert hall or had an upbringing where their parents bring them to classical music concerts. I choose projects according to my instinct, my gut feeling. Do I want to work with this orchestra? Do I want to sing with this pianist? And you find your partners. And those relationships are full of trust and full of energy. And so you try to make sure that those continue, that it's not a lot of first dates. Then we choose the repertoire. It's usually first the group, the people, and then it is the repertoire. I have long lists of repertoire that I'm interested in, and I put it together in a way that has a kind of dramaturgical red thread for me. There's always some kind of connection from one piece to the next. My work as a conductor has deepened my musicianship since I began conducting 13 years ago. My career as a singer and my experience as a singer and my connection to breath and sound coming literally from my entire corpus is very important when I work with the orchestra as a conductor. I'm working with breath, I'm working with onset of sound, I'm working with vibrato, I'm working with the spin of a sound. The risk-taking aspect of my career actually came from my first singing teacher in Toronto. And she ingrained in me as a singer how important it was to take risk in performance. So even when I was 17, 18, 19, struggling with things like having enough breath to sing a phrase and remembering the words and looking for colors, you're just at the beginning of developing your voice. And after performance, she never came to me with a compliment like, oh, you sang that difficult phrase in one breath, or the high note was great. Never anything like that. She would say, you took risks. I'm so proud of you. You took risks. And that just went right into the system. The very first world premiere I gave was when I was 17. I think the feeling is always of a great responsibility of collaborating with the composer to try and achieve what they want, but also you have to take the piece into your own hands. You cannot only do, composers, but you cannot only do what the composer wants. You have to also take it and carry it. I was actually taught this perspective by my mentor, Reinbert de Leo. He was my lodestar, and he still is, even though he's not alive anymore. And he said to me, sometimes you have to just wrench the piece away from the composer, and you have to take it and you have to carry it to its premiere. And so I really took that to heart. He had an incredible sense of space and time. He was 150% dedicated to music and study, and he taught me a lot about, and this is a very important point, allowing the composer the possibility of failure. The possibility of failure. So to not be always looking for the next big hit or thinking you're going to be part of something that's going to be a big success, simply to put in the work and to allow the creative person, the composer, to create what they need to create at this point in time and to accompany them on that. Sometimes a piece at its premiere, it's a hit. And other times it's not, but it has a life later, it has an afterlife. So it's very interesting how these things happen. And one simply has to be with them. There's lots of things I'm looking forward to. I'd like to see how I can sing in 10 more years. I'm curious, I didn't expect that my voice would feel so good now at age 53. I thought it would have been over, and I don't feel like that at all. So I'm curious. My mindset has really changed about that. I don't want to stop singing.